brief pause. The young farm girl removes her protective gloves, stepping away from the initial screening site to commence the next crucial phase of her landscaping project. She swiftly maneuvers a heavy iron wheelbarrow, loading it with the freshly sifted fine sand before transporting it to a muddy clearing. Dumping the first pile, she precisely pours a load of gray cement powder on top, initiating the foundational mixture. This meticulous preparation is not merely gathering materials, but laying the indispensable groundwork for her ambitious garden structure. The actual mixing begins. Thrusting her shovel into the dry blend, the young woman forcefully folds and cuts the sand and cement together until distinct colors merge into uniform gray. She shifts focus to a heart-shaped outline of green bricks awaiting attention. Digging a circular pit in the mound's center, she pours clear water from a bucket to activate the binding process. This transformation of dust into mortar is not merely physical change, but the awakening of structural integrity. The heavy shovel turns rhythmically as water integrates with the dry mixture. Bubbles emerge while she carefully controls the stirring intensity. Pulling a white wheelbarrow to the fresh concrete pile, she loads the material and leans forward steadily, pushing the car toward the foundation. The thick mixture slides down the wall into the trench, filling the base as she continuously dumps more material from above. Such relentless transportation transcends mere manual labor, serving as the physical manifestation of her unwavering dedication. Focus shifts to the center. Crouching inside the heart-shaped planter, the young farm girl levels the soil with her shovel before pouring and spreading concrete to create a flat base. Grasping a trowel and bucket, she steps into the structure to commence delicate bricklaying. Kneeling, she applies mortar between bricks with skillful precision, treating each placement like sculpting a masterpiece. This transition from heavy lifting to fine craftsmanship reveals her profound understanding of architectural aesthetics and design. The grand design takes shape. Viewed from above, the young woman positions bricks at the heart's tip, carefully adjusting angles for a flawless curve. Surrounded by scattered materials, she places a hollow cement brick on fresh mortar, tapping it gently with her trowel to ensure stability. As construction proceeds, the outer contour closes through the steady rhythm of fetching, spreading, placing, and tapping. This repetition is not monotonous toil, but a steady manifestation of her growing achievement. Holding her breath, she presses the brick firmly into mortar, checking the alignment line before scraping away excess slurry with her trowel. Once a straight section is complete, she reinforces the top with a final layer, preparing to build the second tier. Crouching beside the planter, she applies fresh cement to the first layer. As new bricks settle into place, the boundaries of the two heart shapes become clear, accelerating progress. Such meticulous attention ensures lasting durability. The structure rises. In the distance, the farm girl works beside the growing planter, applying final plaster to reinforce the outer wall. She pauses to clean her tools, surveying her work with quiet satisfaction. Back in the heart-shaped outline, she adjusts a brick with her trowel, hollow bricks waiting nearby. Moving to the other side, she places a brick precisely on the cemented arc, tapping it gently to secure its place. This blend of macro reinforcement and micro adjustment shows her mastery of the craft. Her hands move with purpose between gray mortar and rough bricks, ensuring each placement adheres to strict structural standards. Rising briefly to adjust her stance, she bends back to work. The heart's lower contour has noticeably grown taller. Against the backdrop of a babbling stream, she spreads a thick layer of cement on the newly laid foundation. Sweat beads on her forehead, yet her pace remains relentless, her precision undimmed by fatigue. This unwavering focus honors not just the task at hand, but the very land beneath her feet. The wall rises steadily. Amidst the soothing sound of the stream, bricks transform into a solid structure under her hands. She sets the final brick, tapping its side to verify alignment. As mortar squeezes out, she swiftly scrapes it away, capturing her focus. In white gloves, she places a hollow brick, using her trowel to adjust its level. Each tap reflects her pursuit of structural harmony and precision. The dual hearts begin to emerge. The sprawling landscape reveals the full scope of construction, with the young woman laboring in the corner against a backdrop of lush mountains and flowing water. Bending down, she picks up a brick and places it accurately on the cemented second layer, scraping away surplus mortar with her trowel. As another brick is securely set, the heart-shaped wall reaches 3 layers, significantly enhancing structural stability. Approaching the closing section, she carefully fills the final gap and smooths the surface cement. This continuous elevation is not just adding height, but solidifying the very soul of the garden. She continues along the curved trajectory, the cement bucket following closely. With fluid precision, she shovels, places, and taps, pushing the wall higher. She carries a heavy half brick to fill a corner gap, scraping it horizontally to ensure the lines remain smooth. Standing at the central intersection of the dual hearts, she firmly sets a hollow brick at the joint, pressing down hard to bond with the underlying cement. Now 4 layers high, she skillfully wipes away seeping cement from the sides, showcasing extreme control over the details. This intricate joining of 2 shapes is not merely physical, but a harmonious union of her dual design vision. Sweat beads on her temples, yet her movements remain steady. As she reinforces the planter's pointed tip, she sets the final hollow bricks, using a trowel for precise horizontal leveling with decisive motions. Without pause, she begins meticulous secondary pointing of exposed exterior joints to enhance aesthetics. Bending at the foundation, she applies mortar, places a brick, and taps it into alignment. This relentless precision reflects an internal standard of excellence, not external pressure. The structure grows robust. She lifts a new brick, skillfully applying mortar as the curved wall takes its final form. A panoramic view reveals the manor embraced by green mountains, with distant wheelbarrows and planting beds illustrating the project's comprehensive progress. Overhead, she works on one side of the dual heart planter, the wall now elevated to 4 layers. Standing inside, she uses a long wooden trowel to smooth the inner brick surface, filling depressions between stones. This meticulous smoothing ensures a flawless canvas for future soil and plants. She levels the top, right hand wielding the wooden trowel, left bracing the brick edge. She presses the wall to ensure uniform height. Mortar is scooped into gaps and compacted with a rotating twist, revealing geometric grace. She refines joint edges until cement blends seamlessly with stone, making the structure appear flawlessly integrated. Bending at the planter's right, she trims the mortar with gentle precision. This rigorous finish serves not just aesthetics, but creates a durable weather-resistant barrier for the core structure beneath it. She rises, circling the planter to carefully inspect wall height and curvature from every angle. Stepping inside the heart shape, she crouches low, spreading mortar with fluent practiced ease. Lifting her bucket of tools, she exits toward the stream steps to begin cleanup. An overhead view frames the dual hearts against lush green, the creek flowing gently beneath the wooden bridge. This shift from active building to final inspection marks the successful culmination of her masonry work. The scene shifts to domestic life. The young farm girl crosses the wooden bridge near a parked tractor. Red roses tremble in the breeze, revealing vibrant vitality. Inside an exquisite wooden pavilion, she changes into a pink t-shirt and washes dishes at the faucet. In the kitchen, she places bowls on the wooden stove and ignites the portable gas burner, where a blue flame suddenly bursts to life. This shift from outdoor labor to indoor routine marks a return to the comforting rhythm of rural existence and daily peace. She lifts a pristine white block of vegetarian meat, setting it firmly on the cutting board to prepare for dicing. With rhythmic precision, her knife slices through, releasing the first neat piece. Moving to the stove, she carefully places the strips into a steaming hot pan in 2 separate batches. Using long chopsticks, she spreads them flat as oil bubbles dance energetically at the edges. This meticulous preparation is not merely cooking, but a way to savor the rewards of her hard labor through culinary art. She places a fresh tomato on the board, slicing it with swift precision. Japan returns to the heat. Chopsticks reveal the vegetarian meat has turned a delightful scorched yellow. She carefully transfers the fried slices to a white porcelain plate. Then tomato and chili hit the hot oil, instantly erupting in a massive cloud of white smoke. This explosive sizzle is not just cooking, but the awakening of a rich mouth-watering aroma that fills the rustic kitchen. She tears open a seasoning packet, evenly sprinkling salt and sugar to elevate the sauce's umami layers. The vegetarian meat slides into the bubbling tomato base, causing the rich liquid to splash, covering the pan with a transparent lid. She steps back, watching condensation gathered during the final braise. Minutes later, she lifts the lid. Hot steam rushes out, revealing that the sauce has reduced to a thick, glossy consistency. This careful simmering infuses every bite with patience and warmth. She tilts the flat pan using chopsticks to lift the vegetarian meat, now thoroughly soaked in rich soup, and stacks it neatly on the plate. The remaining thick tomato base is poured evenly over the dish, completing the core presentation. From a high angle, she carefully places green sprigs along the edge with light aesthetic movements. Finally, she sprinkles finely chopped scallions over the center, creating an inviting contrast of red and green. This final touch celebrates the beauty of a harmonious, self-sufficient lifestyle. Morning mist clings to the mountain estate. Stepping into the shaded garden, the young woman in pink clears decay, ensuring every plant thrives in this secluded paradise. Her gentle touch on the grafting joint reveals a profound dedication to cultivating life. From the roots, discovering tiny green fruits on the branches, she secures the first reward of her relentless toil. Shifting from botanical care to structural assessment, she crosses the concrete bridge. The young woman in pink evaluates the ongoing construction site with pragmatic rigor. Stepping into the sandy basin, she carefully inspects corner joints, calculating the future water capacity of this massive project. This is not a casual stroll through mud, but strict quality control for her grand architectural blueprint. Every measured glance at wall height translates into precise adjustments for impending masonry work. Heavy labor officially commences. Transporting essential materials through the winding garden paths, the young woman in pink clears the stubborn weeds and levels the rough ground to prepare a dedicated mixing zone. Dragging the heavy woven bags of sand and gravel, she pours the raw materials into a centralized pile, carefully laying the physical foundation for the upcoming concrete work. This grueling physical exertion is not merely simple manual labor, but the indispensable prelude to transforming raw earth into solid architecture. The mixing process demands both strength and precision. Tilting the green-handled wheelbarrow, the young woman in pink releases the cement onto the sand pile, initiating the dry blending phase with rhythmic shovel strikes. As the distinct colors merge into a uniform gray, she digs a deep crater in the center and pours in water, creating a thick slurry lake. This meticulous dry-to-wet transition is not a simple physical combination, but a chemical awakening that will ultimately bind the entire pool structure together with enduring strength. Wet blending demands immense upper body strength. Shoveling the heavy viscous mortar into the cart, the young woman in pink transports the fresh concrete directly to the construction site, leaving deep distinct tracks in the soft soil. Descending carefully into the shallow pool, she immediately begins filling the brick joints with her trowel, shifting seamlessly from rough material preparation to precise application. The heavy lifting outside translates into delicate interior work, marking the true beginning of the pool's structural reinforcement and waterproof integrity. Craftsmanship reveals itself in the minutest details. Smoothing the rough joints with a flat trowel, the young woman in pink ensures every gap is perfectly sealed before placing the next gray brick. Using a spirit level to check the horizontal alignment, she taps the brick gently until it sits flawlessly in the cement bed. This relentless pursuit of absolute precision is not mere perfectionism, but a vital guarantee for the pool's long-term waterproof integrity. Every scraped edge and smooth surface builds an impenetrable barrier against future leaks. The structural skeleton gradually takes on its elegant final shape. Filling the midsection gaps with thick moor, the young woman in pink carefully shapes the bottom corners to enhance the pool's heart-like curvature. Using the trowel's edge to refine the arc, she transforms rigid bricks into a smooth, organic form under her skilled hands. This artistic manipulation of heavy concrete is not just about aesthetics, but a masterful balance between structural strength and visual harmony. The emerging curves promise a tranquil oasis that perfectly complements the wild mountain landscape. Endurance defines the rhythm of this solitary site. Adjusting her bamboo hat, the young woman in pink returns to the bottom joints, systematically erasing the last red bricks beneath a thick layer of gray cement. Crouching in the corner, she applies mortar with steady horizontal strokes, ensuring complete coverage without weak spots. This repetitive motion embodies true craftsmanship, sublimating rough materials into a unified mass. The disappearing bricks mark a major milestone in the pool's internal lining process. Quality control reaches its most rigorous phase. Scraping off excess slurry and filling the depressions, the young woman in pink constantly checks the overall height to maintain a continuous plastering layer. Holding an aluminum straight edge, she shakes it slightly to detect any microscopic gaps, immediately shaving off any protrusions with her trowel. This is not a simple smoothing task, but a scientific calibration of the wall's verticality and flatness. The resulting sharp lines and distinct contours prove that the pool's core structure now meets the highest architectural standards. The surface treatment begins to reveal the final texture. Performing large area troweling from bottom to top, the young woman in pink eliminates the rough granular feel, leaving behind a delicate and smooth finish. Adding fine cement paste to imperfect spots, she seamlessly blends the repairs into the surrounding wall, creating a flawless visual continuity. This meticulous polishing process is not merely cosmetic, but a crucial step in densifying the concrete surface to prevent water penetration. The uniform gray tone under the sunlight exudes a profound industrial beauty born from sheer manual labor. Efficiency and precision culminate in the final strokes. Executing rapid, broad troweling movements, she watches the wall transition into a matte gray texture as moisture evaporates. Standing for a final inspection, she applies a last layer of fine polish to the upper part, ensuring absolute smoothness. With trowel in hand, she walks toward the tool pile, leaving behind a perfectly finished wall segment against the lush green background. This seamless transition from intense labor to organized cleanup highlights her complete mastery over the construction timeline. Inside the circular pool, a new challenge arises. Carefully avoiding the flow behind her, the young woman applies the first coat of cement to the left inner wall, pressing mortar firmly onto bricks. Shifting her focus right, she wields the trowel with force, spreading slurry across the challenging curved surface. She then reinforces the top edge, carefully coating the upper rim to protect against future wear. This complex masonry tests not just physical strength, but her skill in conquering difficult architectural geometries. Precision defines this intricate task. With practiced ease, she fills the final brick joint, sweat beating on her focused brow. A final sweep of the trowel trims the inner wall to a flawless finish. Mortar is pulled horizontally across the bricks, effectively masking the red clay beneath an even gray layer. At the curved corner, excess cement is scraped away with care, forcing the slurry to conform perfectly to the circular shape. thus transforming a rough cavity into a refined space. The lower section is finally secured. Straightening her back after completing the bottom reinforcement, the young woman in pink casually tosses her floral straw hat onto the brick wall, revealing a refreshing and decisive working style. Rising halfway up, she scoops cement from the pile and applies it in stages to the higher brick joints, expanding her workspace upwards. Accelerating her pace, she covers the remaining gray bricks with large swaths of mortar, using her arm strength to repeatedly push and pull the surface into perfect smoothness. This upward progression signifies the steady and unstoppable advancement of the entire pool project. The grand scale contrasts with meticulous care. Working alone in a massive pool structure surrounded by green mountains, the young woman in pink embodies the profound aesthetic of human labor, harmonizing with nature. Crouching down to refine the area around the drainage hole, she patiently fills the edges with cement, demonstrating an uncompromising artisan spirit. The trowel gliding across the wet surface leaves behind perfectly flat textures, marking a flawless phased conclusion to this segment. Every stroke of the trowel is a silent declaration of her commitment to building a lasting legacy in the wilderness. Pushing gray mud upward, she perfectly outlines the pool's outer curvature. Spreading mortar in circular motions, she polishes the wall until it achieves a smooth matte finish. An aerial view reveals the clear stream and emerging arc, highlighting the magnificent scale of the estate. Returning to the unfinished lower walls, she resumes her labor, proving that grand visions are built on mundane repetition. Adjusting her breath, the young woman in pink performs long-distance troweling across the massive curved wall, spreading cement like smooth silk. She precisely applies mortar to the drainage outlet edges, sealing these critical functional areas with care. One final glide of the trowel achieves absolute flatness on a huge section of the wall. Standing in the setting sun to inspect her work, the pool reveals its grand and exquisite contour. The ultimate refinement eliminates every imperfection. Repeatedly pushing the trowel to smooth the cement surface, the young woman in pink eradicates all bubbles and tool marks, revealing a delicate gray texture. Standing in the narrow section, she shapes the pool edge into a perfectly rounded form with gentle and precise strokes, ensuring a safe and comfortable rim. Working continuously along the bottom edge despite the sweat soaking her pink hoodie, she finishes the last key area of the interior plastering. Rising to survey the space, she begins collecting scattered empty cement bags, folding them neatly as the construction phase draws to a close. Site clearance marks the transition from creation. Tossing the bags of debris out of the pool, the young woman in pink reveals the compacted earth floor, gradually restoring the base into a clean and orderly state. Rolling up the last large cover and looking up at the finished walls with a hint of satisfaction, she feels the weight of her accomplishment. Striding out of the pool with her bucket and trowel, she leaves behind a magnificent and fully plastered structure. Moving to the outdoor open space, she loads the cleared wooden strips and long pipes onto the wheelbarrow, preparing to transport the remaining materials away from the site. The day's labor concludes with thorough cleaning. She pours water into the wheelbarrow to rinse dust, then pushes the cart toward the warehouse, her silhouette fading into twilight. As night falls, the scene shifts to warm domestic preparation. Hanging string lights under the eaves of the wooden house, she illuminates the second floor terrace one bulb at a time. This deliberate decoration is not just adding light, but a ceremonial transformation of the estate from a rugged site into a welcoming sanctuary. Stepping into the quiet courtyard, the young rural builder approaches the newly built dry cement pool to assess the exact dimensions for her upcoming courtyard project. She pulls out a yellow measuring tape, crouching down to verify the precise width of the basin floor with extreme care. But this is not a casual visual glance, but a rigorous mathematical calculation for the upcoming wooden framework. Every single repeated measurement confirms her absolute professional calmness. Under the rustic wooden shed, she meticulously sifts through a massive pile of discarded timber. Her goal is to select only the most durable planks for her construction task. Dragging out a complete square frame, she knocks off the dust and inspects the wood quality with care. Yet dismantling this old structure requires immense force. She grabs a heavy iron hammer to strike the stubborn joints. The old frame gradually loosens under her relentless blows. With each strike, the wood yields to her determination. She uses her foot to hold the board steady, separating them into individual strips. This laborious process reveals her commitment to building something lasting from forgotten materials. Finalizing the wooden structure now, she drives the final nails into the connections, ensuring the rectangular frame is perfectly square and structurally sound for the next phase. Lifting the finished product, she loads it steadily onto the wheelbarrow to maintain a perfect center of gravity. Pushing the heavily loaded cart, she heads towards the distant vegetable plot along the rural path. The foundation of her courtyard transformation is now officially on the move, preparing the ground for installation. She unloads the second frame and grabs a hoe to clear the overgrown weeds from the grassy area efficiently. Walking to the cleared space, she unrolls the massive white anti-seepage membrane, shaking it out to ensure a perfectly flat surface. Kneeling down, she carefully smooths out all the wrinkles and lays a second layer for a seamless waterproof connection. Finally, She lifts the heavy wooden frame and lowers it right into the center of the prepared membrane. She swings the wooden frame left and right, ensuring a perfect fit with the underlying liner. Then carefully checks the horizontal level. Standing by the brick edge, she vigorously swings the hoe to deeply turn the hard internal soil. The earth flips over in large chunks, revealing fresh color underneath. Bending in the center of the stone bed, she rhythmically tills the soil to clear out fine roots, shifting to heavy material transport. Wearing a straw hat, she uses a hoe to break up the compacted sand for easier loading. Switching to an iron shovel, she scoops full loads of gravel and drops them precisely into the wheelbarrow. The pile in the cart grows higher with every continuous movement, gripping the handles tightly. She leans forward and pushes the heavy cart steadily toward the cemented construction zone, initiating the dry mixing process. She pushes a cart of fine gray cement powder and slowly pours it directly over the top of the sand pile. This is not merely adding weight, but a crucial chemical preparation for the solid foundation. Putting down the cart, she grabs a long-handled iron shovel to start the intense blending. She inserts the shovel deep into the boundary, turning the mixture outward as the two distinct colors begin to intertwine. With each powerful thrust, she ensures the materials are thoroughly combined for structural integrity, achieving perfect material consistency. The massive stirring intensity requires her to hold her breath, blending the two distinct layers into uniform dry moor. Crouching down, she uses a shovel to scoop the wet concrete into the wheelbarrow. Tilting the cart forward, she pours the thick slurry into the membrane-lined wooden frame, where it instantly spreads across the entire bottom surface. Transitioning to the next construction phase, she rises from the ground. She picks up a small bucket of residual materials and packs away her trowel, ready for the subsequent task. Pushing a cart full of fresh mortar to the second wooden frame, she dumps the heavy load down without hesitation. Applying her trowel to the new framework, she spreads the mixture with rapid, confident motions. Her speed has increased significantly, displaying a fluid efficiency that clearly reveals her extremely high level of operational proficiency and growing mastery over the craft. Perfecting the second concrete brick. Sunlight shines obliquely on the frame as she focuses entirely on the final leveling and finishing touches. Kneeling by the edge, she repeatedly pushes and pulls the trowel across the concrete surface for the initial flattening process. Her skilled technique gradually grinds the rough surface to produce a smooth and watery gloss. Standing up to change her angle, she bends down again to use the long edge of the trowel for the final polishing of the large area. Starting the extensive site clearance, she arrives at a dirt pile and forcefully swings the hoe into the ground weeds, causing a slight rise of dust in the air. She continues to swing the hoe, loosening the hard soil blocks while clearing away the surface grass and scattered gravel. Moving to the dense slope behind the cement pool, she lowers her head to begin the heavy clearing work. Standing sideways on the slope, her hoe slices along the pool edge to precisely remove all attached weeds. Clearing the stubborn ground debris, she pushes the wooden cart to load the cleared weeds and waste into the carriage using her hands and the hoe. Returning with the empty cart, she stops at a messy woodpile where weeds are also growing wildly out of control. Bending at the bottom of the slope, she grips a long-handled rake to forcefully grab grass and leaves, gathering the clutter aside. Then she raises an iron pry bar, stabbing it into the soil full of roots to loosen the deep earth blocks. She precisely cuts into the extremely hard earth layer, prying with fierce force as a massive block of mixed dirt and wild grass tumbles down the slope. Wiping away her sweat, she continues to dig downward into the stubborn ground with unwavering determination. From a distant view, she sets down the pry bar to carefully inspect the clearing results, then walks quickly and lightly down the steep slope. Returning to the woodpile, she picks up a square-headed shovel, observes the cart's position with focus, and begins the high-frequency shoveling operation to load the loose dirt efficiently, executing the massive earth-moving operation. She grabs the handles, takes a deep breath, and pushes the heavy dirt cart away from the excavation zone. Crossing the flat ground, she skillfully flips the bucket to dump the first load of dirt into the low-lying area. By the fifth load, she slightly pants but doesn't stop, dumping the soil against the wall to fill the narrow gaps. When the 10th load arrives, the backfilling enters the final stage, and she unloads steadily despite the heavy physical toll. The 12th load represents the final transport run, and she carefully empties every remaining bit of soil before turning away with the now empty cart. This action marks the successful completion of the foundational leveling work for this specific phase of construction. Walking back into the frame from off-screen, she picks up the heavy hoe and begins digging by the edge of the pool, pushing large blocks of earth outward to level the ground evenly. Maintaining a deeply bent posture, she performs high-density hoeing movements to completely straighten and smooth the terrain around the pool edge, continuing her relentless labor without pausing for rest, despite obvious physical exhaustion. Finalizing the ground preparation work, she swings the last few hoes on the slope below the cabin, revealing the profound beauty of relentless hard work. Stopping her steps, she straightens up to examine the leveled ground, showing a clear hint of relief on her face. Holding the hoe with one hand, she adjusts her gloves and looks around to ensure no dead corners are missed. Pushing the wheelbarrow through the leveled foundation, the cabin in the background looks exceptionally quiet under the setting sun. precise dump initiates the cycle. This relentless loading and transporting is not merely a physical chore, but a systematic reshaping of the rugged mountain terrain. Pushing the heavy wheelbarrow across the loose soil, she transforms raw earth into the solid foundation of a grand vision. Each steady step leaves a profound mark on the landscape, demonstrating her unwavering resolve in the face of such demanding labor. Her movements are deliberate and efficient, reflecting years of experience in mastering this arduous task. With quiet determination, she arrives at another construction site where the foundation outlines are clearly visible. With a forceful tilt, she dumps the earth to cover the previous layer, filling in a depression and marking the end of yet another grueling cycle. A close-up captures the sliding soil as she shakes the cart to ensure no residue remains. As the light softens, she pushes the wheelbarrow, only to return and skillfully fill the deep trench beside the concrete structure inch by inch. The video concludes with her retreating figure walking toward the slope, a silent testament to labor that is far from over. The third load arrives with steady rhythmic precision. Pushing the wheelbarrow along the winding stone path to the high platform, she executes a final massive dump. To complete the bulk fill, the cart rocks gently from inertia as the soil settles. Yet true craftsmanship emerges after the heavy lifting ends. She sets aside the wheelbarrow for a long-handled hoe, stepping toward the water pool edge. Crouching down, she meticulously clears excess floating soil with tool and hands, ensuring the concrete structure reveals its crisp, clean lines against the earth. The heavy pickaxe strikes deep into the root of the earth and slope, methodically dislodging buried stones to pave the way for a truly level and stable surface. With the water pool zone now left far behind her, she pushes the empty wheelbarrow along the narrow winding field path toward a distant mound of loose soil. There she resumes her rhythmic labor without pause, cooking fresh earth with light yet forceful strikes to steadily fuel the demanding next phase of construction. The final scoop of earth covers the peak. Dropping the shovel, she stands firmly on the rugged slope scattered with dead branches and loose stones, seemingly ready for another round of transport. The continuous digging fills the cart steadily, showcasing pure physical endurance as she pushes the heavy load over the bumpy dirt road towards the cement-edged pool in the distance. Her movements steady and skilled throughout the grueling labor. Reaching the destination, she tilts the cart to dump the soil into the designated zone. Returning to the misty slope, she swings the pickaxe and switches to the shovel, repeating the bending and lifting routine until the intense heat finally takes its toll. Removing the patterned hat and revealing the sun-protective mask, she pauses to catch her breath, marking a brief intermission in this grueling marathon of relentless and heavy physical labor. Picking up the shovel once more, she digs with her face fully exposed to the glaring light. Focusing intently on clearing the stubborn soil blocks at the slope bottom, she covers the last few shovelfuls and heads out, navigating the heavy cart over the uneven rocky beach with steady control. Arriving back at the pool construction site surrounded by stacked red bricks and timber, she skillfully dumps the earth into the foundation pit to keep the progress alive. The labor continues without pause or complaint, shuttling back and forth without rest. The shifting shadows silently mark the relentless passage of time. As the foundation pit is gradually filled and leveled, she finally straightens her weary back, dusting off her gloves to carefully inspect the smoothness of the surface. In the wider view, the curved pool wall has already risen more than half a meter high, extending gracefully across the scene. Bending down once more, she swings the hoe with decisive force, clearing away the stubborn grass and tangled roots clinging tightly to the edge. Securing the perimeter with every powerful and deliberate strike, the wide angle pulls back to reveal the entire site, where Farmer A appears diminutive beside the vast pool, yet her hoe never ceases its rhythmic motion. She advances to the final uneven corner, delivering heavy strikes that shatter the last stubborn claw of mud, thus completing the foundational work around the perimeter. Crouching low, she unties the edges of the white plastic sheet, covering a mound of earth. As the film is pulled away, a massive mountain of dark, rich organic compost is exposed. Rising to her full height, she grips a square-headed iron shovel, ready to tackle the next crucial phase of labor, plunging the shovel deep into the rich compost heap. She scatters the soft, moist soil into the adjacent planting pool with steady rhythm. Shifting her angle, she pushes the earth towards the far end of the bed to ensure even coverage. With deliberate heavy strokes, she uses the hoe to smooth the dumped pile, where the dark black nutrient soil contrasts sharply with the original yellow earth beneath. Shuttling tirelessly between the mound and the pool, she spreads the thick compost layer evenly across the entire surface, meticulously preparing the perfect fertile bed for sowing seeds. Swinging the shovel skillfully, she lifts the reddish-brown nutrient soil and scatters it uniformly towards the center. Standing at the edge of the planting bed, she forces the soil into the low-lying areas with focused intensity, completing the final surface smoothing before leaning on the shovel for a brief rest. Gazing contentedly at the neat land, she grabs the rolled plastic film and gradually unfolds it over the soil mound to shimmer under the sunlight. With vigorous shakes, she forces the thin film to conform, using air pressure to seal the soil surface while carefully straightening every single wrinkle. After a final meticulous check of the sea, she rises, marking the formal end of the preparation phase. Pushing her tool-laden cart, she slowly departs the work zone, then transitioning from earth to forest with a tall basket on her back, ready to claim the next harvest in the deep woods ahead. Arriving beneath the towering banana tree, she sets down her woven basket and tilts her head back to assess the height and ripeness of the hanging fruit. Seeking optimal leverage, she hooks her sickle above the thick stem, leaning back to cleanly sever the connection. With a soft snap, the heavy bunch is freed, and she swiftly extends her left hand to catch the falling harvest, preventing any bruising. Cradling the substantial weight, she walks calmly to her container and gently places the bananas inside, her face reflecting a quiet, serene satisfaction from the successful yield. Stepping into the cabin, she unloads the basket and immediately grabs a large cleaver to process the gathered materials. Standing by the stove with lush greenery outside the window, she turns on the light and starts peeling the bananas from the basin. Cracking 2 eggs into a bowl in a continuous motion, she whips the egg mixture quickly with chopsticks. The crisp clinking sound filling the room as she focuses intently on the impending frying. Three coated bananas fry in shallow oil, carefully turned with long chopsticks as fine bubbles rise from the heat. 2 turn an inviting golden yellow while she flips the last uncolored one with practiced skill to ensure even cooking. As surfaces crisp and darken, she lightly taps to check firmness. Then turns off the heat to swiftly remove the perfectly fried treats from the pan, plating each perfectly golden fried banana. She arranges them neatly on a white dish and drizzles a spoonful of shiny residual oil to enhance the flavor. Putting down the utensils, she carries the steaming plate with both hands towards the outdoor dining table, setting it down where 2 small bowls await. Pulling up a wooden chair, she sits and lifts a crispy banana with her chopsticks, gently dipping it into the tomato sauce with anticipation shining in her eyes. Taking a bite, she chews carefully and then smiles brightly, showcasing the rewarding result of her handmade delicacy. Breaking the banana into small pieces, she savors it methodically, with every bite showing deep respect for the ingredients she cultivated and harvested. Picking up the last half of the banana, she dips and tastes it again to embody the ultimate slow-paced rural rhythm, sitting in a completely relaxed state as if the entire world is slowed down around her. Stepping into the dimly lit shed, the diligent farm girl Selfin carefully uncovers the heavy shredder, preparing for the grueling morning routine of processing raw stalks into fine feed. She grips the starting crank with both hands, pouring her physical strength into the stubborn machinery, until the engine finally roars to life. This moment is not merely a mundane daily chore, but rather the essential foundational step for building her self-sustaining agricultural empire from the ground up, demonstrating her unwavering commitment to excellence. Feeding the roaring machine, she often precisely inserts long banana stalks into the circular inlet, watching them get devoured by the spinning blades to produce a massive output. Yet she deliberately collects the coarse remnants and feeds them back into the secondary inlet for an intensive second round of crushing. Such a meticulous recycling process is not just about saving materials, but rather about guaranteeing the ultimate fineness required for premium livestock feed. Mixing the golden powder, the machine finally rests as Alphen brings over a bucket of yellow grain powder, scattering it evenly over the freshly shredded green pulp. She plunges her gloved hands into the massive pile, relentlessly kneading the mixture, until the 2 distinct ingredients fully integrate into a uniform blend. This perfect nutritional balance is not achieved by modern automated mixers, but rather forged entirely through her sheer manual labor and relentless dedication, feeding the hungry flock. With swift and practiced motions, Zafan scoops the thoroughly blended feed into sturdy green plastic buckets. She tightly seals the surplus in a red sack, then carries both loads with ease out of the shed. Upon reaching the small red-roofed coop, she is instantly greeted by a clamoring multitude of ducks and geese, rushing toward her in eager anticipation. As she pours the rich nourishment in the feeding trays, the white and brown birds eagerly bury their heads in the feast. This lively and chaotic scene marks the harmonious reward for her relentless morning agricultural labor. As the flock enjoys its feast, eyes often shifts focus to heavy construction. She parks her wheelbarrow beside a large sand pile, transitioning from farming to infrastructure preparation. With a long-handled shovel, she tosses raw sand onto a wooden inclined screen in rhythmic, forceful motions. The steady grinding noise signals the start of her ambitious backyard building project. Fine sand piles up in the wheelbarrow. Xiaofin pauses, adjusting her breath and tilting her hat with a gloved hand, appearing composed and capable. She pushes the cart to the center of the circular foundation, skillfully dumping the sand exactly on target before returning. Then she heaves a heavy bag of cement onto the pile. Using her shovel, she turns the mixture from the edges inward, blending the dry materials thoroughly. A quick montage follows. Orderly brick stacks, a distinct cashew-shaped concrete pit, and a perfectly smooth square cement slab, showcasing the solid groundwork laid for what comes next. Xiaofin vaults over the edge, descending gracefully into the empty pool. Landing inside, she carefully organizes her masonry materials to begin the critical framing of the support pillars. She places a heavy concrete brick onto the fresh mortar, tapping it gently with a trowel handle to ensure perfect vertical alignment. This precise adjustment guarantees foundational stability. Next, a thick layer of cement ash is meticulously spread on top. This step perfectly prepares the nascent pillar for its continuous upward elevation, perfecting the brick structure. Holding her breath, Xiaofin stands a brick vertically against the pillar, attempting to construct a complex three-dimensional interlocking bond for maximum strength. However, she scrutinizes the alignment and uses the trowel back to make micro-adjustments, ensuring the column remains impeccably straight under her critical gaze. Another heavy block is pressed down and struck repeatedly, sinking precisely to the predetermined height to maintain the structural integrity, moving to the narrow end. Overlooking the gourd-shaped pool, she often carries her green bucket to the narrower section to begin constructing the second crucial support column. She carefully positions the first heavy brick, aligning its edge parallel to the pool wall, to achieve both aesthetic and structural symmetry. Blowing away the floating dust, she stacks the subsequent bricks with unwavering determination, as dappled tree shadows shift across her focused back, sealing the water pipelines. The newly installed pipes are neatly arranged on the brick wall, requiring meticulous waterproofing to prevent any catastrophic future leaks. Wearing white anti-slip gloves, Xiaofin pushes wet cement mortar deep into the gaps between the blue ball valve pipes and the rough pool. She uses a small towel to smooth the sealant, ensuring a completely seamless and watertight integration that guarantees long-term durability. Shifting her angle, she compacts the mortar beneath the pipe, ensuring every hidden structural vulnerability is thoroughly filled and reinforced. She pinches mortar to patch microscopic holes, and then smooths the surface into a flawless glossy finish. Satisfied with the interior seal, Xiaofin climbs from the dry, heart-shaped pool to address the exterior connections with equal rigor, fortifying the exterior joints. Crouching on the muddy ground outside the pool, Xiaofin prepares to treat the exposed gray drainage pipe with the same rigorous standards. She scoops mortar and builds a solid cement mound at the junction of the pipe and the brick wall, securing the critical transition zone. But her trowel dances flexibly, filling uneven stone gaps and pressing the cement firmly against the pipe wall to forge an unbreakable chemical bond, finalizing the professional finish. After clearing excess ash from the pipe wall, she travels a neat ceiling slope with the pipe route, demonstrating highly professional craftsmanship. Standing up, she collects the remaining materials into the wheelbarrow, preparing to leave the worksite as the plumbing phase reaches its conclusion. She mounts the cart frame and steadily pushes the loaded vehicle toward the outer perimeter, leaving behind a perfectly sealed and functional system. Purifying the tools in the stream, Xiaofin splashes a bucket of clear stream water over the dried cement on the wheelbarrow, using a shovel to scrape off the stubborn residue. She repeats the splashing and scrubbing motions relentlessly, until the heavy metal bucket finally regains its original and unblemished metallic shine. The shovel is also submerged and rubbed in the flowing water, ensuring every single tool is completely purified for future use. Gathering the construction debris, pushing the cart across the empty grass, Xiaofin heads toward a designated waste accumulation point, filled with discarded cement bags and packaging. She stops to inspect the chaotic pile, scanning the surrounding area meticulously, to ensure absolutely no trash is left behind in the dirt. Her rigorous demeanor reflects a deep respect for the land, treating the final site cleanup as seriously as the heavy construction itself, igniting the waste pile. Xiaofin quickly gathers the messy cement bags into a compact pile, pulling out a pink portable blowtorch to initiate the controlled incineration. Pressing the trigger, a blue flame instantly shoots out, igniting the dry paper bags at the bottom and sending thick black smoke upward. She carefully traces the flame along the edges, ensuring the fire spreads evenly to completely engulf and destroy all the non-recyclable plastic wrappers. Within the heap, monitoring the blazing fire, crouching beside the roaring bonfire, Xiaofin uses the blowtorch to reinforce any underburned areas until the center glows a bright and intense red. She stands up to adjust the pile's position, maintaining strict control over the combustion process as the thick smoke finally begins to clear. Pushing the empty wheelbarrow past the flames, she picks up one last stray cement bag and tosses it into the consuming inferno, completing her daily work with quiet satisfaction, forcing the final combustion. Fetching a long wooden poker, Xiaofin returns to the fire to aggressively turn the burning paper bags, making the flames dance wildly. She changes her position constantly, pushing the edge debris into the fiery core with rigorous focus to guarantee a complete thermal breakdown. The fire burns ever fiercer as she forcefully swings the poker, compacting the bags to ensure the intense heat wraps around every single piece. Concluding the daily ritual. Pausing briefly to observe the fire, Xiaofin gives the pile one last stir, confirming that all paper bags have been reduced to fine ash. She takes the poker and strides across the grass, carrying the tools away from the fire zone to officially end the exhaustive cleanup. The flames flicker in the breeze as she walks through the garden, finally pushing open the door of the red wooden cabin to rest. The concrete is fully cured. Stripping the heavy wooden frame reveals the solid slab beneath. Yet this demanding physical labor is not merely about clearing away the residual debris, but rather reshaping the entire rugged terrain to lay a robust and precise groundwork for the future landscape. Wielding the hoe with relentless force, the young builder excavates the elevated soil and systematically redistributes the heavy earth to fill the natural depressions with calculated precision, surveying the complex geometric layout of the scattered brick frameworks. She quietly formulates her next strategic move to conquer the uneven ground and advance the project. The clearing operation expands across a much broader area. She shovels high soil down, gradually leveling the wild hillside under gentle light. Confronted with a massive cement slab, she grips the long pry bar, carefully adjusts its insertion depth, then applies explosive leverage to tilt the heavy edge upward. Stepping into the semicircular concrete pool, she hoists the stone slab with sheer physical strength, aiming to lock it securely into the recessed groove along the rim to define the structural boundary. The framework yields. Crouching on the grass, she lifts the wooden box to successfully demold the cement platform, shifting her focus to the interior of the irregular pool. There she repositions a giant precast slab, to establish foundational support and structural alignment for the subsequent complex layers. Dragging several red bricks, she carefully stacks them in the corner of the pool wall, while simultaneously gathering large pieces of discarded white fabric and woven bags from the grassy slope to clear the site. She parks the wheelbarrow before the wooden sieve and vigorously shovels coarse sand onto the mesh. Fine particles filter through, while gravel remains behind. Heaving the handles, she tips the cart to dump the sifted sand into a neat conical pile on the flat ground. Gripping the handles with steady hands, she exerts force to push the heavy wheelbarrow forward, transporting the processed materials across the uneven site for the next phase of mortar preparation. The bridge is crossed. Balancing the heavy load on the narrow wooden bridge, she carefully navigates the crossing above the flowing stream, ensuring the precious cement bags remain intact during the precarious transit to the mixing zone. Kneeling down, she slices through the thick paper packaging with the sharp edge of the shovel, releasing a cloud of fine dust as the gray powder cascades onto the sand pile. In stark contrast, plunging the shovel deep into the mound, she begins to turn and fold the mixture with intense physical exertion, blurring the distinct boundaries between the cement and the sand with every powerful stroke. She gives the mixture final turns, ensuring no dry sand remains at the bottom. Rising to inspect the uniform grayish-brown texture, she begins loading. This precise preparation guarantees structural integrity for the upcoming pour. Shoveling the homogeneous mortar into the wheelbarrow with focused determination, she pushes the heavy cart through muddy grass toward the irregular pool. The pouring commences. Pushing the cart to the pool edge, she forcefully tilts the handles to dump the first load of wet concrete into the semi-finished basin, watching the thick slurry cascade down into the empty space. Navigating the heavy wheelbarrow around the grassy perimeter once again, she delivers the final batch of material to the far end of the pool, taking a deep breath to brace for the most exhausting phase. Stepping directly into the confined space of the pool, she grips the long-handled hoe and carefully searches for stable footholds in the fresh mud, preparing to execute the extensive leveling operation. Leveling begins. With broad, deliberate strokes of the hoe, she pulls the piled concrete toward the pool's four edges, allowing the fluid slurry to flow and gradually cover the bare ground. Bending low, she adjusts the mortar thickness through the tool's drag, her eyes fixed on the overall height, to ensure an even distribution across the basin floor. Having completed the extensive rough leveling, she sets aside the long-handled hoe and picks up a wooden trowel, stepping lightly toward the corner to begin the meticulous fine finishing process. The detailing begins. Kneeling on the pool floor, she sweeps the wooden trowel in broad motions, pressing out excess water and filling microscopic gaps with rhythmic strikes. It is an exhaustive pursuit of absolute flatness, requiring a shift to a metal trowel for high precision glossing to achieve a mirror-like finish. Rising briefly to rest her back, she immediately resumes using long and small trowels to meticulously correct subtle irregularities. With focused precision, the finish line nears. Stepping backward in a steady rhythm, she draws arc trajectories with the trowel to level the large areas of concrete, displaying a striking industrial aesthetic as the gray surface transforms into a flawless plane. Crouching carefully near the drainage pipe, she navigates the tool around the obstacle to polish the edges without leaving any blind spots, ensuring the structural joints are perfectly sealed and smoothed. Executing the final long-distance stroke at the extreme edge, she completes the ultimate touch-up, officially bringing the arduous and highly demanding concrete flooring project of the entire landscape pool to a visually stunning and satisfying conclusion. The work is done. With a final sweeping pass, the trowel erases every seam and footprint on the pool floor, leaving a surface as smooth as a mirror that contrasts sharply with the surrounding rugged stones. Standing on the bank, she surveys the result of her strenuous labor, then shoulders heavy wooden boards and strides steadily away from the construction zone, through overgrown land. Reaching the gently flowing stream framed by lush green banana leaves, she observes the water, preparing to find a suitable spot among the rocks to thoroughly wash her tools. She agitates the accumulated water with a long-handled hoe, washing away stubborn cement blocks clinging to the trough walls. The clear stream instantly turns murky as the dirty runoff flows downstream. Through repeated scooping and vigorous scrubbing, the last trace of gray sludge is completely rinsed off. This thorough cleaning serves as a symbolic return of the construction site to nature. She loads the pristine tools back into the cart and steps ashore. Pushing the spotless wheelbarrow to the upper construction zone, she stores it in the material area. Her movements slow down, becoming deliberate, calm, and peaceful.